I want you to get together.
Hello, everyone. Time for another episode of Tips for Truthers, carrying on the reboot of my old series from 2 years ago. I've got a fun one today, something a bit more fun, a bit more metaphysical, shall we say, something maybe perhaps a bit more philosophical as well. But still something I think people need to kind of come to terms with during their journey to waking up. Something I think people suffer a lot with as well, and I think it's a good perspective to maintain when dealing with the big picture stuff. Okay, so this is whether or not you think we live in a simulation and or a matrix of some kind, it's still the creation, and you still have a life to live within it. And it's good to remember that. Now, the Matrix analogy, I suppose, is a little bit overdone, a bit cheesy, a bit old now, and perhaps overdone and saturated, especially in the truther community. But it's still kind of relevant to give you some perspective of what it is I'm talking about exactly. And there is a lot of talk in the conspiracy world about the nature of reality and where we stand within it. Maybe you've come out through the flat Earth movement, perhaps, or the biblical cosmological views, and then you've gone also through maybe the Mandela effect stuff, or perhaps you've come through more of the holographic universe type theory or quantum mechanical theories of everything is empty space, and things only exist when you observe them through the double slit experiment type thought processes. Everything is just electromagnetic frequency. Everything is sound, manifest physical. Everything is vibration. All those type of thoughts are very common in the conspiracy world. Those are the types of things you're going to be looking into and discussing and watching people do their presentations on ad nauseum, especially in the early days of your research. I think it's kind of a rite of passage for a conspiracy theorist to start realizing that, reality itself is extremely ethereal, spiritual, malleable, and not as physical or as solid as we have been otherwise kind of preconditioned to believe and understand. It's basic stuff. It's kind of in fact, it's the basics you kind of have to get down in your early stages of research to understand the spiritual implications of reality and to get to, let's say, higher plateaus of truth, which eventually get out of the realm of the physical problems, such as monetary, medicinal, educational, political issues. And then you start getting into the spiritual angle of truth and realizing that it all has to do with the creator, God, an adversary of some kind, and what it takes to be saved through salvation of Christ will be eventually the ultimate truth you will get to. And you'll realize the only reason we have a conspiracy is because of what that man did. Or shall we say what God did. That is kind of the final stage conclusion, but I understand it's very difficult to get to that conclusion if you haven't really gone through all the metaphysical stuff first and really had to grapple with the nature of the creation itself and reality. However, there is this issue which you find that a lot of people who haven't got to the biblical perspective or the idea that, there is a loving creator who created this for us and we are a part of that creation in many ways, made in the image of the creator. And the thing we live within is a good thing and something good for us and a thing we can live within and be happy within and have a productive, creative life within, embodied in what we have here, our bodies. A lot of people don't see it that way. There's a huge part of the conspiracy world which view creation as a bad thing, and they feel like we are trapped here by a cruel prison keeper entity of some kind who wants to keep us in these decaying meat suits, and wants to keep us limited into our sense perceptions and our urges and our desires caused by the sensory experience, rather than let us live free as spirit beings that we truly are to our full potential and capacity. And this really is kind of the Gnostic demiurge worldview. This is basically the Matrix. The Matrix is a Gnostic spin on the creation idea that the world around us is an illusion created by a malevolent force to use us for power and energy, to feed off of us in some way, to many capacities, by these things called perhaps archons is a good way to describe these negative gods. And the big god, the demiurge, created this fallen, broken realm to trap us in and, again, use us as a food or energy source of some kind. And the whole trick is that it keeps us here through desire, through needs, through wants, and it makes us believe, that we are supposed to be here in an endless soul cycle. It comes with a lot of reincarnation thought that when you die, your soul leaves, and then you get tricked into coming back in some way, or sucked in like a vacuum into the moon portal or something, and the moon is a recycling machine that harvests souls and puts them back in and wipes their memories. And if you go towards the light, then all you're doing is being soul harvested and recycled. There's a lot of negative views that come with that worldview, but it's a very pernicious and common view at the start of your research. I'll say it now. It's bollocks. It's nonsense. It's with a G. It's Gnostic nonsense. And it's there to basically paint God into a negative light. There's no truth there. And what you live in, embodied, is actually the creation of God. This is the creation talked about in Genesis. This is the thing that we can have life and have it more abundantly and live peacefully and happily within if we so choose to live in the kingdom here and now. It's actually not a bad thing at all. And I think that a lot of people get into that mindset of kind of like, well, it's all just an illusion. It's all fake. None of it's real. Everything's just frequency and vibration. It's all just a projection of our consciousness. Nothing exists unless we're observing it. So what's the point? And my argument is, and what I'm trying to remind our researchers to remember is, whether it's a hologram or not, whether it's a projection or not, it's the creation of God, and you have a life here to live within it with a purpose. It's not a trap. Okay, there's not like some place out there we're supposed to be, and we should ever be trying to achieve that by letting go of the flesh or something like this. The body and the spirit are one. They are not separate from one another. We are not like a ghost controlling a machine. We are intrinsically linked with our fingers, our mouths, our tongues, our eyes, our senses, our bodies, one with the soul and spirit. It's one entity. They're not like separate things from one another that can be independent from one another. Without a body, the soul is useless, and without the soul, the body has no spirit, no life, no essence, no movement, no activity. It's dead. And you cannot have one without the other. And that's the beauty of the design of the creation itself, that we live in within God's creation. And this is why we have to deal with disembodied entities, which we call demons, which are the disembodied nefeshes or souls or essences of these monsters that were once on the earth before they died. When they died, they're stuck on the earth. There's no rest for them. There's no holding place. There's no space for them to go. They're not compatible with heaven or anything lower than that. They are earthly, made from the earth and stuck on the earth, with no breath of life from God that was given to them to begin with, to give them that extra essence of divinity and purpose and meaning and creation that we possess thanks to God. And they're stuck on earth, disembodied, and they're practically in hell. It's described as wandering in dry places, having these urges and desires, but no body to fulfill them. So they're in a perpetual state of hunger and thirst and desire and craving, with no means to ever satiate those things. That's why they want your body. That's what possession's all about. It's about taking your body so they can feel things once more. And I think we need to regain that perspective and realize it's a blessing to have the body. And yes, look, we're in a fallen world. Things aren't perfect. It's decaying. Entropy is forever on the move. Everything is always constantly in a state of degradation and half-lifing itself. And yeah, we die, we age. We're not perfect forever. And that would be perhaps hopefully the end state of mankind with the new heaven and earth in the future from a biblical perspective. But until then, yes, there's going to be pain, there's going to be suffering, because we're in a corrupt, fallen world, a reality made that way through malevolent entities and players who did that to God's creation. So it's not that God created it like this and made it terrible. It's that the angels, the rebellious angels, did this to us and corrupted God's creation. And God's worked to bring it back and he's done that through his Son. And obviously, should we believe in him, we can be born again, renewed in our body and our mind, and our perspective shifted and realized this is it. This is the creation that we can take control of and have for ourselves. And this is what he has in store for us in the new heaven and earth. We're not supposed to be in heaven. We're here on earth, and this is where we're supposed to be. And even in its fallen state, we still have a job to do, to tend to this garden, to make it work, to make it beautiful, to make it something worth living in. And it will be renewed. There will be a new heaven and earth in the end, a new projection, a new hologram, shall we say, a new form, restored back to as it was in its original state before the corruption, yes. And that's great. Something to look forward to, a hope, should we say. But what we have now is still it. And yes, I know it's not perfect, but it's not a trap. It's not there as like some cruel punishment for us. And don't forget that we have a life to live. So there's some metaphysical, philosophical, biblical perspective to understand that concept. Now, if we can remove that from it for a second, and we'll just talk about, let's say you're not a religious person, you haven't come to these conclusions, or you're not quite there in your stages of research yet, and you haven't thought about those concepts, you're likely still in the realm of, well, nothing matters because nothing's real. You're probably in that realm. It's kind of, well, if everything's just a projection and everything and people are just empty matter, space, vibrational frequency, condensed matter, only created through nothingness basically and form, then nothing really matters because we're not our bodies. We are something else, something greater in our own minds. And if we're not our bodies, then nobody's actually real. Nothing's real. It's all illusion. So therefore, nothing matters. And as freeing as that initially sounds, you very quickly, once you kind of live that lifestyle with that particular mindset, realize it actually just breeds apathy and nihilism. The end results are actually, well, what's the point? There's no meaning to anything. There's no reason for anything. Nothing's real. Everything's illusion. It basically takes the fun out of everything. If you want to put it blunt, it makes you realize, or at least think you've realized, that you may as well just kill yourself, basically, because, well, it's not real anyway. It's all fake. It's all just emptiness. It's all folly. It's all meaningless. It's all just an illusion. So what's the point in even having relationships, because it's not real anyway? What's the point of even playing the game and getting a job or eating or anything really? Just living in this life. Why work towards building a family or getting a house or anything like that when it's all just an illusion either way? And people can really get to like an end stage kind of thought process where they miss life because it was all pointless anyway. And it's kind of, this is the coming back to the main piece of advice. If it is an illusion, so what? You still have a life here to live in it. This is it. This is it. It doesn't get much better than this. Like, this is your life. You can call it an illusion, but it's your life. Don't waste it. Don't let those ideas, those philosophies, make you inactive. Don't let those philosophies and ideas stop your progress from achieving your dreams, your desires, your goals, the things your aspirations. Don't let it just suddenly come to a sudden grinding halt because, oh, wait a minute, it's all just an illusion anyway. And don't waste your life just, getting high all the time or playing with your perceptions of the illusion through drugs or whatever it is. Don't waste your time. So yes, it's a creation of God at the end of the day. This is his creation. This is it. And it does have magical, illusory, metaphysical, beyond the usual perceptions of our reality nature to it. It does have that to it. It's a beautiful, magical thing, the creation. It truly is. And that doesn't mean it's intrinsically worthless now. That doesn't mean your experiences, whether illusion or real, aren't real. Don't have an effect on your psyche, your emotions, your capacity to learn, your reactions. They're all very real things. And just because you can't touch emotion or a memory or a lesson, shall we say, doesn't mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean you didn't learn something from it. It doesn't mean it didn't have a metaphysical impact on your existence. And those are just as real as the physical things, like the stuff you've bought, and the things the physical wealth you've acquired over the years. That's real too. And that is certainly something that can teach you things, but the sense experience is one thing, but the knowledgeable experience is another that is just as real. And the illusion, the creation, whatever you want to call it, whether you want to take a negative or a positive spin to it, gives you the means to discover those ends and to learn those things and to grow from those things. So it's still important. And I just don't want to see people get apathetic and nihilistic and get to really bad conclusions when they start going down the all reality is more illusory than we thought type of train of thought. I see it, you know. Again, I think if you're in your early stages of discovering all this type of stuff, you're probably, like I said, going down more of the nihilistic, apathetic route to begin with. Then I think you'll realize the fruit's terrible and it's not useful to have that worldview, and you will begin to question and look for more answers. And I'm here to, as a guidepost, to tell you, start looking into the religious aspects. Okay, and yes, you'll probably start with the Eastern stuff first, because that's just, you don't want to get to Christianity yet. I get it. You gotta save that till last, because the answer can't possibly be there, right? It's that kind of thing. So you probably go down the Taoist, Buddhist routes, and more the Eastern philosophical roots, the Hindu, Brahman roots, you know, understanding the idea that we are all God who has separated his consciousness into billions of people who have all forgotten that they're God, to experience what it's like to have a life and stuff, or the whole everything is illusory, it's all Maya type of view, or you're going down the idea that, you know, everything is dualistic in principle and nature, and one thing can't exist without the other, and it's us to find perpetual balance and harmony and all of those things. And you'll go through all the processes, but then eventually you'll get to, it was created by an entity separate from us who we call God, and he sent his son as a means to get back to a state of perception and understanding, which brings us closer to the Father. You'll get there. You'll get there. And also to save us and to get us through the final stage of God's plan, which is to renew the heavens and earth after judgment and give us new bodies to live within, uncorrupted. Okay, so a lot of these early religions, like these more proto-pantheistic, shall we say, philosophical worldviews, not really religions, you know, like the Tao or Buddhism, they'll definitely help you understand the creation. They definitely will. And they'll give you some perspective about how it works and the nature of it. And it'll also try and help you cope with and deal with the corrupt aspect of things. And usually the soothing answer is, well, how would you know what good was if you didn't have bad to compare it to? You know, that's kind of the cope that they'll give you. But the truth is, corruption is the absence of good. Okay, and it's the further away from light you get, the darker it becomes. It's not that there is dark as an entity equal to the light as a thing. The light is all that there is. God is all that there is. The source of all light, the source of all goodness, the source of all creation and everything. And the further away you get from the light, it's like a spectrum, the darker it becomes. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's not like they're actually... Darkness is the absence of light. Darkness isn't a thing in and of itself. Darkness is no thing. It's nothing. And I think a lot of people need to start realizing it's a spectrum, and everything is about getting further away from God. That creates negativity and destruction in our life. And the closer we get to God, the creator of the creation, I think the more brighter it becomes, the more conducive towards a positive, productive life we gain. You know, I think things get better the closer we collectively keep our eyes on the creator and get closer to the source of all goodness and all things positive, which is him. And we can do that through his son. His son gives us a means to get to him, you know, and Christ spent his ministry pointing us towards the Father. And this is what he wants us to do. He has given us a way to the Father through him. And we should never forget that. And the point is to reconcile this idea that, yes, although you have all fallen and we are in darkness and everything is corrupt, we can make it better as long as we go closer to the light. The darkness will seem further away. And I think that is not the same as the dualistic principles of Taoism, where light and dark are perpetually in an equal battle of two fishes dancing with one another or something like that, where they kind of they need each other in a sense. It's a wholly different worldview. So I would recommend considering the Christian understanding and the perceptions on duality, because it will make things a lot clearer than these Eastern philosophies will. And like I said, credit where credit is due, the Eastern philosophies are pretty good at laying out the nature of reality itself and how we perceive it to be. But even they then go above that and say, but it's an illusion. Like the seeming dualistic nature of reality is an illusion. The truth is there's just the source and distance from it. And I know it's a new agey term, the source. That's what they would say, But I believe it's God. It's creation. It's God Almighty Himself, the creator of the universe and all that is, and every single thing within it. And as long as we keep our eyes on Him, things will get better. And I think coming back to the main piece of advice here is what I'm trying to really get to in a roundabout way. And I told you this would be a philosophical, more metaphysical discussion, getting into deep warrens of thought, trying to understand this concept. But it's, if you're on your conspiracy journey and you've got into that mindset where it's like everything's fake, everything's an illusion, what's the point? I would say no. Whether or not it is a hologram or it is a matrix, it's still the creation, and you still have work to do here. You have a life to live here. Don't squander it. Don't. It's a gift, not a curse. You need to see that and understand that. Okay, and there you go. That's my tip for today. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I get that this may have pissed off a lot of people who are perhaps in those stages I mentioned earlier where they think God is a cruel, evil, vindictive prison keeper. And all I would say is, grow up. That's all I can really say about that kind of response. God is not your enemy. You have made an enemy of God. He did not make an enemy of you, I would say. So I know that's all I can really. That's my opinion. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.
I want you to get together